What is up, guys? Welcome, Crypto FUD. And let's jump right into this, guys. All right, so we are having a early stream, but post Jerome Powell stream. Let's go over everything that's been going on with Jerome Powell. Did we get rate cuts? Obviously, we did not. We already know this. How are the markets going to react moving forward? Not just right now, but I mean in the next few days, next few weeks. Let's just jump right into this, guys. So right now, Bitcoin sitting at around 104,000, a little bit above 104.1 right now. We've seen, a dull move as far as for today. Nothing really too crazy for the markets. Kind of waiting for Jerome Powell to come out and speak, but we already had priced in. We knew there was going to be a pause, right? We already knew there was going to be nothing much going on for today as far as any kind of rate cuts. Markets kind of already knew that, but what I said was to focus obviously on how Jerome comes out, presents himself. And today I'm getting mixed signals to where I'm seeing some people saying, oh, he was being very bullish. Me personally watching it live, it seemed like he was very hawkish in regards to really just dropping the ball, in my opinion, right? And I'm going to tell you guys, not triggered, but I'm a little annoyed, right? I'm a little annoyed because this guy, we already knew he wasn't going to reduce rates, but we were anticipating that he was maybe going to come out and just speak a little bit more hawkish, or not hawkish, but dovish, as far as with anticipation of maybe some rate cuts coming up soon. And that doesn't seem to be the goal, right? It seems that all he can say is two words from the whole. If you didn't watch it, he said 90% of the time, uncertainty and tariffs. That's all he said. Reporters were asking him, well, what about you said that you wanted to see inflation come down to certain levels, unemployment, everything. We're hitting those goals. Yeah, but uncertainty and tariffs. That's all he kept saying. And then he dropped the ball on us. What's going on, Larry? And basically said that he expects inflation to spike up coming soon, right? Because of the tariffs. Right when he said that, that's when the markets kind of started to move towards the downside. So far, let me zoom in a little bit, but so far, really for Bitcoin, we didn't really see much of a move towards the downside, right? This has pretty much been our day for today. Very tight range where pretty much the bottom has been around 103.4, top being somewhere around 105,600 or 105.5, somewhere around there, right? But very dull, small movement, nothing too crazy. We already kind of expected that. As he was speaking and even post speaking, really just nothing going on, right? Because the markets are trying to gather what the freak is going on right now in regards to the Feds. And are we ever going to see some kind of interest rate reductions? We've seen everyone across the world reduce interest rates, but for whatever reason, we cannot get interest rates reduced in the United States. And I say this, and we'll let it be after this, but it's just funny how you look back, and this guy was reducing interest rates at the end of the last administration, right before the election. He started reducing interest rates. You guys remember? Around September of 2024, he started randomly reducing. And remember, he reduced interest rates not a quarter, but 0.75, almost basically 0.75%, 75 basis point reduction in September, right before the elections. Inflation has dropped 50% since then. And this guy can't even give us even a freaking quarter basis point reduction. You make what it is. To me, it seems like it's been political for a while. It really has been political, what it looks like, right? And as of now, I feel like even with Trump priorly, voicing his opinion against Powell and wanting to see Powell, exit the building. I think Powell, Jerome, however you want to call him, I think he kind of now really doesn't like Trump, and now he's really like, bro, you know what? Let me show you what I'm going to do here. And I think it's become more of a personal issue. I think it's become more of a political issue. It's really, in my opinion, this has nothing to do anymore with inflation, because inflation has come down from 9% down to the last read was what, 2.4%. Their target is 2%. This is insane, absolutely insane. So that's gonna be my rant on Jerome Powell for today. But if you guys were just watching, obviously we saw no reduction in interest rates, so we'll move on. So again, Bitcoin right now sitting at around 104,000. Again, the markets right now, I feel like for the next maybe hour or two, they're going to probably kind of stay stagnant. We do have a market close coming up in about 9 minutes with the stock market. Stock market not really doing much either. It's I mean, if you look at the S&P, we're down or we're up 0.1 on NASDAQ. Dow Jones down 0.001 or 0.03 right now. The VIX is kind of down right now. The dollar kind of up a little bit, 0.1. You know, gold's not doing anything today. Really, it's just a stagnant day. And I think you can throw in Jerome Powell. And then on top of that, a lot of confusion on what's going on in the Middle East. Is America getting, you know, going to get drawn into this, this whatever you want to call it, you know, this little conflict that we have going on over there, or is this going to get resolved, right? Because on one end, you watch the news and it's saying that, you know, Trump's looking to you know, potentially start doing strikes. And then on the other end, you have Trump physically coming out saying that Iran's coming to the White House to talk with Trump. So it's just a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, right? And what do we always say? The markets, the worst thing for the markets is absolute uncertainty. So for now, it looks like we've formed some kind of a double bottom. For now, this is on our 30-minute time frame, and it looks like the bottom is somewhere around that 103.5 area, give or take a little bit. So we'll see how the markets kind of play out. A lot of times the actual stock market will close at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then you'll start seeing Bitcoin start making a move. A lot of times, usually up towards the upside, given that there's not a lot of sell pressure, and you're seeing a lot of retail buying in after the stock markets are closing. So we'll kind of cover that as we go. But with that, just a boring day, and Jerome Powell really didn't do shit for us. Looking at the day for Bubbles top 100 projects right now, you guys can see absolutely nothing much going on. We do have a lot of red across. We do have a slight greens. This Kia, I don't know what that is, and then we have Aerodrome Finance up slightly. But other than that, pretty much everything else is pretty much in the red for today. Even in the weekly, you can kind of get a gist on what we've been dealing with, right? You can see a lot of alts have not recovered. Even Bitcoin has not recovered since the whole beginning of this Iran stuff. You know, Bitcoin went down from about 108, 109,000, sitting at around 104 now. And alts really, I mean, a lot of these alts, Arbitrum's down 26% for the week. That's crazy. But a lot of these alts are down 20% right now. And this kind of leads to what I want to talk about here, fear and greed. We've gotten back into these areas for fear and greed where the market actually is in more fear than greed, right? We're in that neutral. It looks like we want to kind of get back into fear. Now, this, in my opinion, I think we might be getting into an area where, I'm not giving out financial advice, but me personally, I might start adding to my bags again, right? You guys know how I am. I don't buy when we're in, really, I don't buy in neutral. We're usually coasting in neutral. Greed, extreme greed, I'm looking for the exit door, right? Whether it's, you know, I think we've topped out, you know, for the whole cycle, or if it's just a blow off top, I'm usually looking for the exit door, and I'll reset myself whenever this kind of resets as far as fear and greed. And yeah, it looks like I never sold off much when we did jump to this, because we only ran up to about greed. We didn't really get into that extreme greed. Markets were overcooked or anything like that. We kind of were getting towards those areas, and then the markets started to pull back, obviously, with a lot of geopolitical stuff that's going on. So we might be getting into some areas where maybe some potential buy areas, if not already, because remember, for the week, a lot of alts are down already 20%. But if we do get back into this fear, that means that the market has retraced a lot more than what we've seen even from right now, and we could potentially be seeing some good buy-in zones. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. Real quick, guys, make sure you guys slap those likes. I know we're a little early today, but we're going to be all right. We're going to go over some stuff here. So something big that did happen yesterday. The Senate passed the stable coin bill. It's a major victory for crypto world, right? Crazy, because something like this happening, I mean, I wasn't expecting it to absolutely like just make Bitcoin run up to all-time highs, particularly, but a very good thing. But it's getting suppressed because of all the bullshit that we have going on right now in the market. So, reading through the article, the Senate on Tuesday, which was yesterday, passed a bill that would establish the first federal framework for the dollar-backed cryptocurrencies known as the stablecoins. A major victory for industry that has pushed for more favorable oversight in Washington, D.C. Though pass of the Genius Act in the upper chamber by a vote of 68 to 30 won't yet make the new legislation law, it still needs approval from the House and President Trump, which we'll get, right? So it's basically, it's going to be passing. The crypto world is already lauding the bill swift process as a major step. I feel really good about this bill, said Dante, Chief of Strategy Officer and Head Global Policy Operations for Circle. Let's see here. So Circle's stock has soared roughly 400% since the debut trade of trading on June 5th, a sign of growing investor enthusiasm for the stablecoin as legislation advances in Congress. So, I mean, to put this in a nutshell, obviously, this was a great thing. We've been covering this this Genius Act. Basically, what this is entailing is that they're going to start easing off and accepting stable coins, right? Big thing. This could lead to banks holding on to stable coins and stuff like that. I'm sure there's a lot more into this bill that we're not going to get into right now that we have covered, but this is nothing but great. This is just the door opener, right, for stable coins and banks particularly to start being able to actually hold on to some kind of a crypto and cryptos, right? So this is very great. This is very good, in my opinion. Obviously, very, I think this is long term, right? This isn't something right now, obviously, because of, unfortunately, everything else that we have going on in the market. I think long term, even the next cycle, this is going to play out very well because you're going to see a lot more adoption with this this bill getting passed and banks and institutions being able to hold and basically offer stable coins, which are obviously through the blockchain. So this is nothing but great. This is good. Let's see here. So another article, Bitcoin price steady as the Fed keeps interest rates stable. We already talked about this. So basically, we'll read through it real quick. Nothing much. So a strong labor market, steady growth, and somewhat elevated inflation prompt the Feds to hold rates steady. On Wednesday, June 18th, which was today, the Federal Open Market Committee announced that it would maintain rates in a 4.25% and 4.5% range, in line with market expectations. The FOMC noted the future rate decisions will remain data dependent, which is a complete lie, right? We've been being told that everything is data dependent, and as the data comes and it meets their expectations, they find something else or some other reason to kick the can down the road. Now it's tariffs, right? That's the big boogeyman right now is tariffs, right? And I know I was talking to a few other people. Red Rum said worst bull run ever. I hear you, bro. It's been, we talked about this on our members only stream. I don't mean to go off into the weeds, but we talked about this on our members only stream, I think yesterday or the day before. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Hear me out. This bull run has been, it's been rough. It really has, right? It's been very rough. It's been hard to really, it's been hard to really, I'm trying to, what I'm getting to is because I compared it to 2020, 2021. It was just so easy. It was so much easier. It was like, you bought in, you hodled, and you kind of just let the shit be. We had one big drop in the market during May, June, July of 2021, where Bitcoin did drop 50%, right? And it scared the shit out of everybody. But anybody that kind of saw the writing on the wall, right? They added to their bags, or maybe they sold at the top. Very rare were able to catch the top, but they sold at the top and were buying back like crazy during that drop, because right after that we ran up, made all-time highs, and we went into altcoin season. Simple, right? This freaking run, it has been all over the place, where Bitcoin's making highs before the halving. ETFs are getting launched, right? we're the market's stagnant, the market's up, the market's down. It's been all over the place. This is going on, that's going on. It's been crazy. It really has been crazy. And the one thing that I did express on our members only stream, you guys should think about joining. We do have more member streams than we do on our normal streams, because I go into depth on a lot of things. It's a little bit more personable. But the one thing that I was just basically, expressing is that if you've made it through this bull run, and at the end of this bull run you end up in the green, which I'm sure still hodling, you're gonna do that, right? I think most of us, as long as you hodl and you're not getting really swept up into the bullshit and buying and selling because, oh my God, it's World War III is about to happen, and then the markets end up running anyway type shit, I think you're going to do all right. But if you do end up in the green at the end of this cycle, whenever it ends, right? If it's in the next few months, 2026, I still do think it's going to be in the next few months, my opinion. Regardless, if you make it in the green, I think you've survived probably one of the hardest freaking bull runs, in my opinion, because like I said, you go back to just 2021, and it was other than there was some scares in the market, it was just so much simpler. It was so much easy, especially during that second run. Anything you bought, you freaking 10x'd on alts. Right now, it's just been, yes, there's been a lot of big moves and a lot of money's been made, but on the other end, it's been, I think, more of such a mental, issue, as far as like just thinking that we're running up, we're making all-time highs, and then the market takes a shit. You think we're running down to back down to 70K, and then the market's back up to 110. It's just been all over the place. So it's been rough out there. It's been rough. But jumping back on here about the Feds, I keep saying, I think that these people, they've really they've dug themselves a hole, and it's just like right now I feel like Jerome Powell is trying to save face. He's trying to act like he's the tough guy here, and that Trump's not going to bully him around, and that's why he's not reducing interest rates when he knows damn well that we should be reducing interest rates small but consistently throughout this year. So let's see here. So Trump continues to pressure the Feds. So on the same day, U.S. President Trump stated that stupid Jerome Powell will likely keep rates at their current levels. The remarks were part of an ongoing attack on the Fed, with Trump urging them to lower rates by 2 points. My boy he's not even saying, can we just do a small little reduction? He's saying that we need to reduce interest rates basically by 2 basis points. 200 basis points pretty much is what he's saying. Absolutely crazy, but I agree with him. Right now we are at around we're about a 4.5%. They should be reducing them down to around 2%. They really should. So Trump urges that the lower rates would stimulate economic activity and boost the stock market. However, the Feds have continued to prioritize inflation control, which inflation is down, right? Inflation is down. That's why their argument is void, because if you watched Jerome Powell today, even the reporters were saying, but the inflation has continued to come down. We're at 2.4%. What is his reply? Uncertainty and tariffs. Anything. Uncertainty and tariffs. That's all he can say. That's it. I wonder if tariffs weren't there, like what would be his excuse right now, in my opinion, because he still would be doing the same shit. So they continue to prioritize inflation control and has so far resisted political pressure, especially amid lingering inflation risks, partially driven by the tariff regime introduced by Trump's own administration. I think it's a load of crap, guys. I really do. I think it's a load of crap. And the last article that we're going to jump into, and then we'll jump into some charts here. So Bitcoin price could fall under 100K. Oof, let's see. Let's see what they're saying here. So Bitcoin dropped to 104,650. This was as of earlier on Wednesday, June 18th, marking a 6.5% decline from its highest levels this year. Option traders are increasingly betting on further declines. Data from Deribit shows that the put to call volume ratio rose to 2.17, indicating that more traders are buying put options as a hedge, basically shorting the market. A put option gives investors the right, but not the obligation, to sell an asset at a specific price within a declining time period. In this case, for contracts expiring on Friday, open interest in put options is concentrated at the $100,000 strike. So basically what they're saying is a lot of people are basically calling for $100,000 or under Bitcoin. And I agree. I mean, we're already at 103 right now. We're at 103.8. We're not far from it. It really wouldn't be a big move if we drop down to 100. I think psychologically, it would scare a lot of retail investors if we drop down to 100K. If it's not like a quick, one of those scam wicks where we drop down under 100 and then we jump right back up and we hold some kind of solid ground. If we do drop below 100 and let's say we hang out there for like the next week or two, I think the sentiment in the market will easily turn to bearish, right? And you'll see a lot of retail investors basically selling for losses, which I just, it obviously wouldn't be good for the market, right? And then think about with alts. That's why I was telling you guys, right now we're getting into an area where if Bitcoin does drop down to 100K or below, right? I don't think it's going to be long. I think it's going to be short-lived, and that might be some good buying opportunities for some of these alts that you can, maybe capitalize on. Some of these long-term alts that we cover all in the members only stream. I think some of these prices, because they haven't really shot up, and gone crazy at all, so if some of these alts, they're down 20%, they go down another 20%. Now you're talking about some good buying opportunities on some of these alts, just kind of waiting towards the end of this year when we hopefully see some kind of altcoin season. Gina, what's going on? Gina said this guy needs to go. What the hell? He needs to go. I know, broette. I understand, Gina. I'm right there. I really am. Because really right now, the only thing that's in Bitcoin's way is Jerome Powell and this little conflict that we have going on, right now. And maybe you can say tariffs, partially, but I think the tariff shit, I think a lot of investors have wrote it off. And I think as time goes on, even though, remember, we do have the deadline for July. The beginning of July is going to be, I think, the 90-day period for a lot of these countries for, the tariffs. So we'll see how that plays out. So on a positive note, or hold on here. So the conflict could fuel. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, I missed a couple things here. So investors remain cautious amid the escalating crisis in the Middle East. In a statement on Tuesday, Donald Trump suggests the U.S. may enter the conflict and potentially target Iran's supreme leader. Not good. The conflict could fuel inflation in the U.S. and globally. Brent and West Texas Intermediate crude prices rose to $76 and $74 respectively, while global shipping costs have also jumped. As a result, the Federal Open Market Committee may opt for a wait-and-see approach, monitoring the impact of geopolitical tensions and Trump's proposed tariffs. On a more positive note, Bitcoin demand appeared to be rising. Spot Bitcoin ETF saw over a $216 million inflow on Tuesday. That was yesterday, bringing the total cumulative inflow to $46.26 billion in a note on XBTO. Let's see here. So a hawkish signal from the Federal Reserve could strengthen the U.S. dollar and trigger a test of the psychological $100,000 mark. That's what I was just saying. And they're basically just covering what we just read. So again, right, we'll have to see how this plays out. As far as the geopolitical shit, we can't. There's nothing. There's nothing there, right? It's just like kind of a wait and see. I think with the I think a lot of people are putting a lot of stress on Jerome Powell because it's just like, bro, the economy needs it, man. The economy needs it. Housing market is taking a shit, which I hope it does, right? I'm in the process of buying a house. I hope that the housing market does cool off because where I'm at in Florida, our housing market, it literally, I mean, a $200,000 house in 2019 is going for like $450K right now, and that's with it down. That's with the market down 10%. So it's just insane. Like right now, if you go on Zillow, Flip, what's going on, brother? if you get on Zillow and they'll ask you like, well, Crip, what is your range? And I'm like, all right, you know what? I feel like I'm balling. Let's do a range of 350 to 400K. Show me all my houses that I'm gonna look at. I'm looking for like a 3 to 4 garage house. You know what pops up? Freaking trailers with like an acre of property, and the trailers need work. I'm like, dude, are you? Wait, I'm like, did they get 30,000? I said 300. I'm looking at. I'm like, what the? It's insane right now. It is insane. So, I mean, the housing market's cooked for right now. Interest rates being lowered would only would basically fuel up, I think, more buyers on buying more houses. So on that side, I don't really want that to happen. But as an investor, right, rates go down, my money goes up. Now my target price goes up. So I'm willing to take that the hit for you guys. Drop those interest rates. I'll pay a little bit more for a house. It is what it is. The markets need it, but. Looking at some of the charts right now, Bitcoin at 103.8. Let's look at a couple of things. I like to focus on the MACD for right now. One thing that I pointed out a while back was that this was when we were up here. The MACD had double topped, and it looked like it had been curving. And this was back probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. I kept screaming this in the members only stream, and it looks like this played out kind of like we called it, to where the market obviously has cooled down since then. Price range during that time was when we had run up for the second. Oh, that's when we ran up and made all-time highs, actually. And I noticed that a lot of people were screaming, oh, but the weekly is so bullish. And it was at the time. It still technically is on the MACD. The weekly is definitely bullish. But look at this curvature that we're starting to get on the MACD, which means that if shit doesn't turn around, this could easily flip to being very bearish. And we could see some kind of a move towards the downside on the MACD. Remember, these are all obviously lagging indicators, right? These are lagging indicators, but looking at the MACD, even on the weekly, it's starting to look like it's getting a little bit bearish, right? Now, things could change at a drop of the dime, obviously, for the charts. So, looking at the 4 hour, though, when you start zooming in on smaller time frames, the 4 hour is starting to look like we're getting into an oversold area, right? Maybe a little bit more of some movement towards the downside, potentially, before we really get into like a really oversold area. But you can see we've bounced around this, I'm going to say the 786. This isn't the fib retracement, but an area right here, negative 750 area, somewhere around here. Let me move this up a little bit. You can see we've bounced off of this multiple times and gone on some nice moves towards the upside. But as of now, it looks like we're starting to come back down towards those levels. And this level, if it doesn't hold, could spell that we're going to be heading continuously down. So we'll see how this plays out. But I mean, looking at a lot of these charts, either we look like we're in oversold areas, or it looks like we have a little bit more room to move towards the downside as of now. And we read the article, a lot of investors, a lot of liquidations areas. A lot of people are opening up perpetuals, leverage trading for shorts right now, calling for some kind of a sub $100,000 level. I personally, in my opinion, I know this isn't popular, but I would honestly like the markets to come down a little bit. I really would. I would prefer the markets to come down, because I feel like we're in this area right now, right? We're back in this consolidation zone, right? That it's just like we haven't been able, we've broken out a couple times, but it's just like we keep coming right back into the area, right? I wouldn't mind us maybe coming down, flushing out these sellers. And I don't mean one of these quick V shapes, but flushing the shit out. Let alts come back down. Let's flush out all the freaking sellers. Let's get a lot of buyers back in where we're seeing some good potential buy areas, and let's start it all over again, right? I'm not calling for a freaking $50,000 Bitcoin, but if we can just drop down into maybe the mid 90s, somewhere around there, drop out, like I said, all this freaking, the selfish, sellers and stuff like that, get them out, and let's just restart the whole markets. Let this Iran shit play over. Let, the interest rates, stuff like that, it's going to keep haunting us probably until September. You can see right here, this is the next meeting, right? Next meeting. Remember, we talked about this the other day. This was technically, it was still very high. It was like 75% of the market was calling for some kind of reduction. This is the next meeting, not today, but the next meeting, right? We were looking at today's meeting, which was at like 99% as of, this morning. We already knew. And then this one was at around 70, 80%. Now it's starting to run up to about 90% because people can see it. Jerome Powell has no interest in reducing rates. You can give him right now, freaking inflation drops off a cliff right now. Drops down and we're in deflation, right? We're in shit's deflating, right? And he still will come out, say a bunch of scrambled words, and then between those scrambled words will be uncertainty and tariffs. That's all he's going to say. That's all he's going to say. But at some point, he is going to be forced to reduce these freaking rates. Rosales. Bro, I'm noticing your name's not green anymore, bro. What's going on? It's a public service announcement, man. That caught my eye immediately. What's going on, brother? But going over to September's meeting, this is where things get changed, right? It looks like a lot of the market is been like this for the last maybe month, where a lot of the market is calling for our next reduction in interest rates somewhere around September. I'm just messing with you, brother. No worries, brother. We need to get these markets back up and running. I understand. 62% of the market is calling for some kind of a quarter, and we have about 7% calling for some kind of a 0.5% move, maybe even a 0.75, which I highly doubt that'll happen from our boy Jerome. But you guys can see, I mean, we're probably not going to see any kind of any help from Jerome Powell probably for the next 2 to 3 months, most likely is what it looks like. So just something we got to deal with. I'm waiting. Let's look up, if you guys missed the meeting this morning, we can actually watch a small little clip of uncertainty and tariffs.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective.
0.4%.
In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments.
And then from there on, he pretty much just said, like I said, uncertainty and tariffs is pretty much what he said. So look what Lark said. He said the Fed did not cut. They don't need to. And you want to know something's interesting? What's something that's interesting? Basically, the entire .com boom, the rates were at 5%. I mean, it is true. It is true. I just, it's time, bro. Regardless, and we're at a completely different time. Let's see what this is.
There's a new book called King Dollar. A journalist who's followed Treasury for about 40 years.
Yeah.
And he talks about every time there was a narrative that the U.S. was going to lose reserve currency status, why it's never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
because crypto, that seems to be a threat to the dollar, doesn't it?
I think it's the opposite.
Oh, really?
I think stable coins could reinforce dollar supremacy.
You hear that? Stable coins, because they're pegged to the dollar, could possibly, he's basically saying supremacy for the dollar, right? The dollar already is superior to every other currency, but could reenact that, reinforce it, because obviously imagine, with this Genius Act, every stable coin now is officially, able to be, held by the banks and stuff like that. Now you're talking about a lot more liquidity that potentially is going to be going into stable coins. And what is it going to be pegged by? It's not going to be pegged by the euro. It's not going to be pegged by the yen. It's going to be pegged by the US dollar.
because with stablecoins could end up being one of the largest buyers of U.S. treasuries or T-bills.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, if you are using a stable coin in Nigeria that's backed by the US dollar, you don't actually have to have dollars. It's on your phone. You can transact. So that? I think there's a very good chance that crypto is actually one of the things that locks in dollar supremacy.
And is that why it was crucial that Donald Trump?
Nice. Like I said, I think the Genius Act long term is going to be nothing but great. Nothing but great. Everybody's on Jerome Powell. Well, Twitter's kind of boring here. So let's just jump into some DeFi. Let's jump into some DeFi right now. So on the watch list for right now for DeFi, biggest mover is this Kappa, the face of sarcasm. If you guys are familiar, this project is actually is being run by the same devs that operate Maniki. So now they're operating a second token called Kappa that's on Solana. It's up about 20% today. I have been keeping an eye on it. You know, I was so close to pulling the trigger yesterday and picking it up right when we started to break down towards this level at around the 36. We dropped down to around the 36 and I didn't freaking pull the trigger. I didn't buy. I was buying something else, but I mean, this was a nice little 58% move towards the upside. If we were able to catch it, you can see this bull flag played out. Didn't rip, you know, but it played out as far as a nice little run up for a nice little scalp jumping in. So as of now, for this Kappa, I mean, the market cap is relatively low. It's at a $4 million market cap. You know, everything looks good with liquidity. It's got decent volume today. It's actually down a little bit lower. The last few days, it's been running up. I mean, it's been doing multi-million dollars on volume just for Radium swap, you know, so it's doing decent. I like the numbers, market cap being very low, a lot of potential, but I don't want to buy in at a high, right? Because you can see, obviously, the prime buy-in zone was way the frick down here. You can see this thing has ran up like crazy, you know? So, I mean, if you were able to catch this bottom, even from where you're at right now, you're up 1,500%, right? So does that stop me from wanting to buy in? Not necessarily, but at the same time, you have to keep that in consideration that I don't want to be buying in at the top right here, because then you're going to be holding on to this project, hoping that we run up while you have a bunch of people that have bought in, even all down here, that have bought in, that could potentially take profit, and this thing could be moving down, and you might get better buy-in zone. So that was my train of thought. I was like, you know what? We dropped down to 36. It's like, I'm going to hold off. Obviously, it ran up a nice 50% from there. So I'm gonna wait it out. Patience is a virtue, right? So I'm looking for this 36 or below for this project Kappa, which if that does happen, that would put the market cap at around 3 million or below, right? So we'll definitely keep an eye out on that, but a good little play right there. Other than that, let's see here. Billy's not doing too bad. So I did buy in on Billy recently, but I sold off. We had a little bit of move, and I sold off, traded it for something else. I am looking to potentially get back in, maybe on Billy. We'll see. Again, market cap $6 million, you know, so a low market cap as well. Volume doing relatively good. Billy is trading on a lot of mid-tier exchanges, you know, that you can that has potentially more exposure than something like that Kappa project. That project just dropped recently. It's not on really any exchanges. Billy, on the other end, is on like a lot of different exchanges like MEXC and I'm sure a few other ones. So with that being said, it has a lot more exposure, right, for money to come in, right? So you have MEXC, you have Gate, XTX, right? and a few other smaller tier exchanges. So stuff like that I like to take into consideration, because this could move projects, right? Because you have a lot more potential buyers. People that are going to buy Billy on exchange are usually relatively newer investors, right? Because obviously, we being in crypto, we already know DeFi. If I'm buying Billy, if I'm buying any of these projects, especially on Solana, I'm going to just go straight to the swaps. I'm going to have it on my DeFi wallet, and I'm going to go around all those central exchanges, all their tariffs, right? All their fees. So, but a project that I have been accumulating is this Mask project. I have been accumulating this project around the 11 mark. So you can see it's been kind of consolidating. I've been buying around the 618 area. This is at around the 1130. Every time we kind of drop around or drop below, I've been buying in. So anything below that 1.1 cent or below, I've been accumulating on this project. Market cap $11 million. I feel like this project, it's been trending for the last 20 days. It's been trending in the top 20 Solana on the DEX. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't checked, but I wouldn't be surprised if down the road this project gets listed on some central exchanges. As of now, really nothing. No central exchanges is on it right now. So this potentially, if it does maybe make its way to KuCoin or Mexi or any of those, you might see this project, run up to $100 million potentially. So obviously very risky, but could possibly play out. So other than that, as far as Fartcoin, $1.10, maybe might be getting into some good buy zones if it breaks below that dollar mark. Maniki, I did sell off on my Nikki after finding out that the devs literally jumped ship and now they're focused on another project. Usually not a good sign. Volume has been dropping like crazy on Maniki as of late, and you can obviously tell why, because the devs have been focused on really promoting this Kappa project, so not too happy about that. I had to take a loss on that, but obviously moved on from that. A project that we have been talking about on the channel that I'm going to just do a disclaimer alert and say be very cautious is this Moonpig. Potentially, I was, bullish on Moonpig. I like the volatility, take advantage of it, right? It was buying and selling. As of late, in the last few days, if you guys remember that whale, what was his name? James Wynn, that got liquidated multiple times in the last month. He had the leverage. He had a long open for $1 billion, and got liquidated. Lost $100 million on that trade alone, and then got liquidated again a week later. This guy's been really promoting the shit out of this project. He still is, right? But he did tweet that a big dev basically sold off on the project, right? And it makes me wonder with a lot of these projects that, hopefully a lot of times they mean well when they start. They start off and they'll have 5, 6, 7 devs, right? A bunch of different, people in the mix, and a lot of them will hold 10, 15% of the circulating supply on multiple different wallets, so it doesn't look sketchy. Well, as always, right? Not all the time, but as a lot of times this happens, is you have a lot of these devs, they don't see eye and eye. What do? They sell off, right? They'll sell off their 10% of whatever they're holding, which, with a project like this, before this dev sold, this was at a $15 million market cap. Dude sold off. I mean, you can see when you're seeing shit like this right here is basically devs, people that are on the inside that are selling the shit off of this project. If you would have caught this at the bottom, right, bought in and even just sold up here, it was a nice 50% move towards the upside, right? Nice little take advantage of the volatility. But now you're seeing, look, the project is starting to die out, is what it looks like. Now this thing, I say this, and tomorrow we come out and this thing's up, hundreds of percent, potentially, possibly, right? But when you're starting to hear that there's cracks going on in the back end with devs, it's usually a sign where you're just like, bro, I would encourage cautious, as far as jumping in, or caution jumping in on a project like this particularly. So Rosal said, Crip, can you check Trump whiff when you have time? Did Trump buy a dog with hat? Trump whiff. Oh, yeah, he's in Trump with a hat. Oh, man, this is hilarious. I'm going to click on the other one. I just like this picture. Look at this picture. Community takeover. Is this the project right here? Can't be. This looks like a freaking scam. This is a scam. It says it's done $100 million in transactions. This is 100% a scam. This cannot be it. Which one are you talking about, though, bro? Because that project right there was a scam. I guarantee it. It's got to be the one, obviously, with the picture, right? But it says market cap's at $28,000. Liquidity. The first one right here. I mean, to be honest, bro, it looks like this thing has had its run, right? I mean, that is what it looks like. It looks like it's already had its run. I'm going to be honest with you. How long has it been out? Oh, this has been out for over a year? That's crazy. I don't know, bro. I mean, you can see the volume's very low. There's only 19 wallets trading today, right? And I can almost guess that it's probably the same wallets that are buying and selling just to kind of keep the volume. I mean, that's still very low volume, but at least keep the volume, there. All I could say with this project, brother, is it looks like it's kind of it's gone dormant. So it looks like it's had its day in the sun, right? Nice runs, but as of now, it just looks like it's kind of just fading off into the sunset, in my opinion, bro. Small market cap, liquidity doesn't look terrible, but I don't know. I would be careful buying in on a project like this. I would say there's a 90% chance that you buy in and you're just going to be stuck holding the bag, probably not much going on, and then, eventually you're going to sell for a loss. Now, I always say, I have to say it because it's like it's happened before where I say shit like this, and then it's like Rosales comes back 2 days later and be like, bro, that project is up 3,000%. And I'm like, what do you want me to do, bro? I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just going by the numbers that we see here. I personally wouldn't touch it. But, you never know, right? Throw $10 and see what it does. Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin's trying to make a move here. Where are we at here? 104.3 as of now. Still sitting in that consolidation zone, though. Still sitting in that consolidation zone. This right here was this was like the Iran news, right? Us dropping down, which I even said yesterday on our stream, the members only stream. Yes, we saw it come down. It ran up, hit its head. This is the if you're wondering what these lines are, this is the VWAP. I have a VWAP set up on here. Basically, a VWAP is like moving averages and volume kind of intertwined together, and it kind of gives you these ranges. And you can see basically for this VWAP, we came up, we hit our head literally at the top of the range, which was around 108,900, give or take a little bit. Iran news comes out. Well, we can say Israel news, right? Israel struck Iran, and blah, blah, blah. The market started to move down, right? But yesterday, what I pointed out was that a lot of people were calling for like 90,000, Bitcoin or lower, and the fact that we basically ran down to around 103.4, and we've kind of been consolidating now, tells me that the markets, it was a little bit of uncertainty scaring in the market as far as, is the U.S. going to get drawn into this, but it seems like the market is not too worried about what's going on in the Middle East right now, in my opinion. So, I think we could either go two different ways. We could go up or go down, right? No, I'm just kidding. But two different ways here where maybe we hang out a little bit in these areas. Maybe, we see some downward movement. It seems like that's the more likely, kind of projection that we could probably see. But it's Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin does whatever it wants to do. The crypto market does whatever it wants to do for the most part. We could easily see maybe this double bottom, right? Some kind of a W pattern that's wants to form, and Bitcoin starts running back up again, right? And just saying, screw all you guys, right? Screw everybody that's sold off. You don't believe in me? All right. And we start running up. That's what sucks is right now is we're just in such, it's like TA and stuff like that. We're in just such this like weird situation with the crypto market where it's just like, if certain things were in our way, like the tariffs, and the feds were reducing interest rates, and there was peace in the Middle East, Bitcoin would probably be at like 130,000 right now easily, and we probably would be setting ourselves up for an altcoin season that should probably already be in the mix. But unfortunately for right now, we just keep going through these situations where we just keep kicking the can down the road. But it's going to happen, right? And that's why I still hold on. And I'm telling you guys, I'm picking up this, I'm picking up that, as far as projects, because we're going to eventually get into altcoin season. Bitcoin's eventually going to break new all-time highs, right? And we're going to eventually look back, and it's going to be with all the bullshit, right? Erase all the bullshit that we've had to deal with, like the political shit, geopolitical stuff, tariffs, all that stuff. It's going to be a normal 4-year cycle when we look back at it, right? Because when we go back and we look at like 2021, I don't even remember what caused all the turmoil back in 2021 when we saw massive drops, right? Massive drops back in 2021, right? This was our 2020, 2021. This was the end of the bull run at the end of 2021. But look at these drops, right? I can't even tell you what happened during those times. I was fully invested in crypto at the time. I don't even remember, because look what happened after the fact, right? We ran up, and this is when we went into altcoin season. And the same thing is going to be in play for this time around, right? Right now, we remember everything that's going on, all the stupid shit. But down the road, when we look back at it, we're going to be like, what happened? Oh, yeah, that was the Israel thing, or, whatever the case is. I think back in this time was when China, basically banned crypto for this, 10th time, and I don't even really remember half the shit that was going on at that time, but it was a scary time to be in crypto. Bitcoin dropped 50+% at the time. It was a terrifying time. Everybody went from $100,000 Bitcoin at the time to your favorite YouTubers telling us that we were going down to 3K. So it was a time to be alive in crypto, but we pulled through and we ended up, prevailing through it. And that's exactly what we're going to eventually do. But if we see a drop, take advantage of it, in my opinion, right? Not financial advice, because eventually altcoin season is going to be here, right? Eventually we're going to be making new all-time highs, and eventually we're going to be looking back, and some of us are going to be like, I'm so happy that we bought in, or that I kept adding to my bag and I didn't fall into the bullshit. And some people are going to be like, I hate crypto because they fell into the bullshit. They sold off on their positions. They didn't add to their bags during the dips, and now they're looking back. They sold in the red, and they look at what they could have made, and now they're just like, I hate crypto. Not all of us are going to win, right? Not all of us are going to win, right? You do know, in order for you to make money, someone has to lose money, right? You do understand what you're involved in, right? In order for you to win, someone has to lose, right? But hopefully it's nobody on this channel, because we talk about this all the time, right? We've been buying. We bought when everybody was terrified months ago. We bought during the bear market, right? 2 years ago, right? When all that FOMO sets in, and I mean that real FOMO sets in, and we're in altcoin season, we're going to be selling to all those people that are going to be buying in, that could have been buying in on these dips. That's what we're doing. We're selling to all them. And it's nothing personal. They have to learn too, right? Once you were there, I know I was there once. And I was like, I vowed never to be those people again, buying in at tops or FOMOing in on anything. So it is what it is, right? So we'll see how everything plays out. But Bitcoin right now, 104.5, not looking too bad. Remember, I said this at the beginning of the stream. I said I wouldn't be surprised if we start right when the market's closed. Market's been closed for about 30 minutes. It's like that sell pressure from Wall Street will die out, and it's like retail. Now we have, Europe and Asian markets not necessarily up yet, but they're going to start waking up in the next few hours. So hopefully they don't watch the Fed meetings and they just buy. So, and again, that's another thing too is we're running off of potentially. Trump said that Iran might be coming to the White House. Some officials. If that is the case, that means that there's going to be some kind of resolution with that. So we'll check that off the mark too. So a lot of uncertainties, guys. A lot of uncertainties, but we'll see how it plays out. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for today, guys. That is pretty much it. If you guys are watching this after the fact, hit the freaking like. I see we get like 200 people coming in after the fact, and no one slaps a like. Hit the damn like. I'm gonna start pushing this channel like crazy. About to be going full YouTube here soon. I'm about to be revamping the whole channel, how we do everything. It's going to be coming up soon as I get a lot more free time going. Like I said, it's going to be just 100% YouTube. I'm going to be putting out videos all day, every day where you're like, bro, is this guy putting out another video? Yep, I am. Videos and live streaming all day coming up here, guys. Gene said, what do you think Bitcoin's price is in the next 3 months? Gene always hits me with these hard questions, bro. What do I think or what do I want? Let's see here. So in 3 months from now, you're talking about September, potentially. I mean, bro, anything can happen from here to there, in my opinion, brother. It's hard to give some kind of a, what I think. I mean, like I said, we have different scenarios, but if we can get a lot of this shit resolved, I think Bitcoin is being held down right now. And if we can get a lot of shit resolved, Bitcoin could easily run up and break all-time highs. Easily. September is really going to be getting close to that towards the end of the year, where I think we have to be making all-time highs, and we're going to have to be getting into altcoin season, right? A bear market is amongst us, guys, in 2026. I don't give a shit who tells you what and that the 4-year cycles are dead. They're nuts. If they think that in all of time of investing, we've gone through 4-year cycles, but now the 4-year cycle's over with, they're crazy. They're absolutely crazy, and they're lying to you and lying to themselves. So 2026, bear market will be here. It will be here. So, but Gene, who knows, brother? Who knows? Hopefully we're at all-time highs at that time. So, but with that being said, guys, thank you so much. I do appreciate you guys, and I will see each and every one of you guys. We'll be back here tomorrow. All right, guys? All right, thank you.